Welcome, everyone. Some very exciting developments and changes have been happening in the automotive industry, and this is a great time to be specifically a truck enthusiast. Lots of great things are happening. I wanted to give the OEMs a recommendation on a couple things that I think that they could do, all three, or the three major ones, and we're talking about HD trucks, Ford, GM, and Ram, what they could do to improve their product line better for the customer. I am a truck definitely fan, enthusiast, user, buyer, and I wanted to give my recommendations to them, and we'll see if you guys agree too. Make sure to comment down below if you like some of these thoughts or if you've been thinking them as well. Take care, everyone. Have a great day. So I have already made a pretty in-depth video on the 2025 Ram updates. Now, as you might tell, I am extremely excited about that because I've always been a Cummins fan, and them getting a rock-solid transmission backing a rock-solid engine is an extremely exciting change of pace from 2 decades of very problematic Ison and 68 RFE transmissions. Now, the body is still the same body that came out in 2010 in the 4th gen, so they really have just been updates, but tasteful updates nonetheless. I like the way the new ones look, more or less. I actually like the plastic bumper grill, whereas a lot of you guys don't. So the Cummins and the new transmission that the ZF8 was already behind the 6.4, so that's definitely a good thing. That was a huge upgrade to that truck. That happened in 2019. But one little glaring issue that's going on in the Ram department is they haven't updated the 6.4 since 2014 when it came out. So it's never been updated. And that's what we're going to talk about next. So I owned a Ram 6.4. Actually, I worked at FCA when I was a lot younger. I was 18 years old and did a lot of the emissions testing related things with the 6.4 big gas. So I was there driving the mule trucks that had, some of them had like avgas calibrations, like high octane fuel calibrations, and they absolutely ripped. Our test trucks some of them were fast, flat fast. They were running high octane fuel and a tune to match, and they were fun trucks. But the 6.4 in production trim was lacking a little bit in the towing performance category. It was better than the 6.0 Chevy. It had good power, but as soon as you tuned or modified the 6.0, the 6.0 ended up being a lot faster than the 6.4, as we found out as my 2002 6.0 had the tendency to absolutely blow the doors off of my Power Wagon. In the towing department, it's okay. It doesn't compare to the 7.3, and that's where the issue comes in. The gas department on the GM or on the Ram trucks have not been updated to modern form. GM came out with the 6.6, which isn't as good as the 7.3, but it's better than the 6.0 was. So something needs to be done in that department. We'll talk about that in a minute, but something needs to be done about the 6.4, and I will get into that. You don't need to be a Mopar history buff to know the name 440. 426, 383, 440, those are all some top names or top numbers in the Mopar performance spectrum, just like the 351, 429, 302 as well, 427, 428, those are all strong Ford numbers. That 440 was a very dominant engine back in the day, came in trucks and cars, and it's got a nice ring to it. You know what is also right around 440 cubic inches? It's 445 cubic inches, the Ford 7.3-liter gas engine. So, my pitch to Ram is, why don't we have a new truck engine? You could easily come up with a modular design where you could have a 426 for cars and light trucks and SUVs to replace the Hemi, and you could have the 440 for your HD truck engine, for your performance HD truck engine. We'll get to the towing truck engine in a second. But that would be really cool. It would bring back a old muscle car era displacement that sounds really nice. And I think it would provide the Ram truck with a very competitive engine offering to the 7.3-liter Ford, which right now is easily the class leader in the gas discussion. We'll get back to engines in a second, but as someone who has been looking at the 2025 Ram Cummins as a potential vehicle to buy, the Rebel definitely perked my mind because I know that, well, obviously, as I just said, it's going to be a Cummins, and to get some off-road capability, and for me, a rear locker is something that I look at as what should be a standard feature on a heavy-duty truck, because I use mine all the time. My Ford has an e-locker, just like a lot of Fords do, and I use it a lot, and I like having it. The Rebel offers that. What I didn't realize, I've known about the Rebel, I didn't realize that it was only a 2500 platform truck. Ram, why is that thing not a 3500 platform truck? Because the Tremor is also available as a 1-ton option. I think you would make an absolute killing, especially with this new powertrain, if you opened up the Rebel to being a 1-ton, because I guarantee you I would be a buyer. And the other thing, the Rebel, even 2500 form with the diesel engine, you can't get the factory winch. That would be as simple as either doing a air-to-water intercooler or getting the intercooler out of the way and moving the transmission oil cooler out of the way to make room for the winch. The biggest problem is most likely the air-to-air intercooler, which you don't need to have. Ford has already shown that the air-to-water works really well in the diesel application. So I definitely think that could be looked at, and definitely should be, because a winch on the Rebel with the diesel engine is for sure what I'd want to buy. And you guys already have designed your winch within the frame bracket, and you should definitely make it so that it fits with the diesel application. So Cummins has launched their Octane 6.7 gas engine, and they are in production. These are production pictures of the engine. Supposedly, it can make up to 300 horsepower and 660 foot-pounds of torque, and that peak torque comes in at about 1,600 to 1,800 RPM. Peak RPM is 3,200, or max RPM. Let's just assume that max horsepower is somewhere around there. It's making about a little bit under 500 foot-pounds of torque to make 300 horsepower at about 3,200 RPM. It's probably a little bit lower RPM than that, so it's actually probably making more torque because the RPM is lower. But just for an easy number, about 500 foot-pounds of torque at redline or that area. That is unbelievable. It is a dual overhead cam, inline 6, sharing architecture with 6.6 or 6.7 Cummins. So an incredibly strong block. It's turbocharged. This would have unbelievable application in light-duty pickup trucks. If this ever hit the market in a pickup truck, oh my God, the towing world would be turned on end. My bet to you, given how well the 7.3 gas performs, you would be hard-pressed to notice a difference in performance between the 6.7 gas Cummins and a diesel one. For most buyers, most of the driving you're doing is going to be at that 1,600 to 1,800 foot or horsepower, or RPM territory. So you're going to be at peak torque at that very low RPM, just like a diesel. The average customer probably couldn't tell the difference between that gas engine and a diesel engine. No DEF, no DPF. That is a game-changing situation. And if it's reliable as a Cummins, for instance, or as another diesel, and if it's as reliable as a gas engine, it's going to be an unstoppable force. Now, whether or not they put them in trucks, I don't know. But Ram would be absolutely foolish, given their contacts or their contract with Cummins, to not consider offering that. If they built that's why I want to talk about the 440 gasser first. If they built the performance engine, that one would go in the Power Wagon. It would go in probably a lot of higher trim trucks. But that towing gas engine option, which granted, it's a Cummins, it's a high quality engine, it's probably going to cost almost as much as having a Cummins. My bet is you're going to be in the $8,000 or $9,000 territory for an option above a gas engine to have that, would be my bet. Personally, I would heavily consider it. And I think, given what I'm seeing of the torque produced at peak horsepower, the torque produced at 1,600 to 1,800 RPM being of 660 foot-pounds of torque, that would be crazy. Running on probably pump gas, I assume 87. I don't know what they're calibrating for. That's probably why it has dual overhead cams with twin independent cam timing, so it'll vary both intake and exhaust, much like a Coyote or much like a VTEC Honda, or what a lot of vehicles these days have twin independent cam timing. Okay, that's not exactly a new thing anymore, but having that would allow them to drop cylinder pressure enough to prevent knock on command and things like that. So the potential here is absolutely outrageous, and It excites me from a work truck owner perspective. I would 100% want to own that 6.7 octane turbocharged dual overhead cam gas engine in a modern pickup truck. 100%. Now, let's talk about the Power Wagon just really, really quick. Yes, there's going to be more weight in the front end. The torque of that is going to be amazing off-road. Yes, you're not going to have the tire-turning torque, so if you wanted to be a buyer and you wanted the performance too, you probably would have a more lively feeling truck. Maybe with a normal V8. But maybe not, because the torque is going to be so strong that it may also be more fun to drive anyway. But the potential here is just out of this world. And when I started reading more about this engine, it physically excited me to think about this in a truck. It needs to happen. Ram, if you have anybody watching this, first of all, I hope you consider the 440 because that would be so cool. But that 6.7 octane one of your trucks would be a game-changing situation. Now, on the GM side of things, they launched a 6.6 gas, which is not a class leader, but because the 6.4 definitely is the class loser right now, it is not the class loser either, which is not a terrible place to be, but it's probably not the best. Going back in history, GM had, well, first of all, 496 is a classy name, but that's getting to be a pretty big engine. The 454, though, has got a really nice ring to it. It's right around the same dimensions. They already make an LSX 454, which is a tall deck LS block. Same architecture, but it's tall deck, and it's got a little bit wider bore spacing, things like that, to fit a bigger bore, which it does. The 7.3 Ford has a little bit bigger bore than the LSX 454, but the 454 has more stroke. So, and their overall length, height, and width are very, very similar. The LSX 454 is like 4 inches longer, 5 inches longer than the 7.3. I don't really know why, but that's just what the spec says. But they're very competitive width and length. So not only does GM already make a 454 LS based, and it's not that hard to translate that into LT, which is a direct injected version if they want to do DI, which I definitely think GM, you should remove the DI from your HD trucks because I don't think that that is the best thing for the buyer. But if Ford is able to pass emissions with 7.3 liter multi-port injected 448 cubic inch or 445 cubic inch Godzilla, then I think that GM should be, and Dodge should be able to do, Ram should be able to do a similar thing with a similar size V8, iron block, aluminum heads, similar deal, target that 425 to 430 horsepower mark, target that 470 to 485 foot-pounds of torque, just like Ford is hitting, and I think that would be a hugely competitive step for both manufacturers, and us truck buyers who want gas engines would hugely appreciate that, and us people making YouTube videos would go absolutely bazonkers with a new 440, a new 454, and the 7.3 liter Ford gas engine on the block, all together being sold side by side. So I want to conclude the video with that. Obviously, this is a very speculative video, but nonetheless, I think pretty exciting, of the potential being that GM already has the capability to produce a LS-based 454, which means that it's not that far off, and it certainly isn't hard to conceive the opportunity of doing so for the HD truck. And the future of that 6.6 could easily be, it would be really good in a towing package half-ton or a towing package Suburban. Those are two places where the 6.6 really should end up and give a try, because it's not like it's a bad engine, but it's just that it's outclassed by the 7.3. So when something is outclassed, I think it's high time to look at, can we come up with a more competitive option? And I definitely think that the way the emissions tests are going, that having the larger displacement block where you can keep the temperatures down in the cylinders and still make the power, which naturally gives you the torque to keep NOx production down. I think that's the biggest reason why Ford has gone to the 7.3 is it's not as snoosey of a motor in terms of heat in the chambers, making a lot of NOx, which means that they can't pass emissions. So us as consumers get to end up with an emissions, I believe that what's driving force here is emissions causing us to get bigger engines. I wouldn't be surprised if diesel engines went above the 6.7 cap that they're currently at. I would definitely not be surprised. I've heard rumors of like an 8-point-something Cummins in the future. I would not be surprised about that at all. And I wouldn't be surprised to hear of Ford taking the Power Stroke to a 7.3 liter Power Stroke. Wouldn't surprise me at all. I think that the larger displacement is going to end up working in their advantage to keep emissions down, which is the most important thing that they need to do in order to sell a vehicle. If you enjoyed this conversation, or if it excited you at all in any way, put your comments down below. What outcome or what recommendation here would you be most likely to buy? I'm definitely curious about that. Comment that down below. If you enjoyed the video, like, and remember to subscribe, and reach out to me if you have any questions in regards to anything that you're doing in relation to trucks or outdoorsing or whatever. I'd be more than happy to communicate with you. Take care all, and I appreciate everybody.